Good morning, everyone. Let's do some prayers and then start our Saturday's class with Yog Sutras. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Bhavaswaha Tat Savitravarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Asto Ma Sadgamya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya मृत्योर्मामृतं गम्य ओम सहना भवतु सहना भुनक्तु सवीर्यं करवावहि तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहि ओम शांति 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 ओम. Second chapter, Sadhna Pad of Yog Darshan. Rishi Patanjali has been taking us into the depth of the yam and the niyams, each and every one of them. He has been telling us if we are fully established, that means to fully practice it, bring it into our life. What are the benefits of it? What really happens? Then after that, last week we saw the benefit of the asanas also. Asanas, when we practice a broad range of asanas, precisely it's like for the long time. It's not just only for a short period of time. So we got to have a precision in those asanas for a long time. And we have to choose the one which are good for us. That's why we need a teacher, a guru. We got to observe the prerequisites also. And we see the strength is developing in our body, stamina also, endurance also. And eventually, with the help of these asanas, we can transcend all physical and emotional pains, he says. This is the promise he's giving us. Because that's what he's saying in verse number 48. Tataha dvand anabhighataha. Tata means from that, and from that means the practice of the asanas properly. Dvand is the pairs of opposites. Anabhighata, lack of injury. Okay, so Patanjali is making a pretty big proclaim over here that mastery of the asanas makes us remain free from any kind of a pain in our life. But the condition is that we know what to do, when to do, how to do. Because there are thousands of postures. In order to heal our physical and psychological injuries, we must learn to select the postures which are suitable to our specific needs. And we also got to learn how to arrange them in proper sequence too. Because the sequencing of asanas is crucial. Sometimes we just want to make a change, or we just see somebody else is doing it and we start doing it too. So that's why these rishis, they are telling us, do it properly, do whatever your guru tells you to do. That's why the guru has to be only one, not more than one. So just like a one father, one mother, one guru. These days we like to hop from teachers to teachers. We think we can find something better, some quicker way. That's not how it goes when it comes to yoga. So this is what he's mentioning in this verse. So it's not just the asanas alone, it's the cleansings also, other kriyas also, especially the agnis are also. We got to learn how to do it properly, learn it from a teacher. That's how we learn how to lift our energy from the lower chakras to the higher chakras. See, that's where the healing comes. That's where the psychological pain goes away. When we learn how to open our chakras or move our energy from the lower part of the body to the higher part. So, this master practice, which he's talking about, really fills our body with vitality, strength, and stamina. That's why in the yogic scriptures they say, if nobody can do a task, give it to a yogi. He will do it. Because yogi has that concentration, that strength, that stamina. Yogi knows how to energize all the internal organs. Yogi knows how to restore the link between the heart and the brain and have a robust and energetic body. Body which is stable also. Mind which is very comfortable in this body also. So that's why next verse, verse number 49, he is giving us another practice, which is called pranayam. So verse number 49, let's start it from there. Tasmin sati shwas prashwaseyo gati vicheda. Tasmin means after that. So that means after practicing asanas, we got to have a full control over our body. We should know what this housing is, where we live in. So after that, sati means only then. Shwas is inhalation. Prashwas means exhalation. Gati is the speed or the movement. Vichedaha. Viched means controlling or cessation or stopping. That is a viched. Pranayamaha. That is a composite of pran and ayam. It is a compound word, pran and ayam. Or you can say it's the expansion of the life force. Because pran is a fundamental principle of pulsation in our body. This is the force which brings the body of inert matter to life, pran. And ayam, it's a composite of the prefix and ayam. So a from every direction, that's what a means. So in every respect, in every matter, expansion. Ayam. So complete mastery over the roaming tendencies of inhalation and exhalation is pranayam. Okay, beautiful, very clear definition of what pranayam is. Complete mastery over the roaming tendencies of inhalation and exhalation is pranayam. Then he says it is to be practiced only after mastering the asanas. That's why before we practice pranayam, what does the teacher say? Make sure you're sitting straight, sitting comfortably, sitting stable. Expansion or stretching of pran, the life force. The process of expanding our life force, according to this sutra, is accomplished by gati vicheda. Gati vicheda means stopping the movement of our inhalation and exhalation. So this expansion of the life force could also be accomplished by disconnecting the movement of inhalation from the movement of exhalation. Because we all know when the inhalation and exhalation stop, we die actually. And when the movement of inhalation is disconnected from the movement of exhalation for a prolonged period, sure, a person dies. So death and expansion of the life force are mutually exclusive. So what are we missing here? What we are missing here is the two words, the first two words of this sutra, tasmin and sati. That's how this riddle is solved. Because he says only then refers to the content of the three last sutras, which are dedicated to the practice of asana. So you can see that asana and the pranayam, they go hand in hand. So the dynamics of the pranayam, which is described or elaborated in these verses, can be comprehended only after we have mastered the asana. And perfection in yoga comes from attaining mastery over the mind and the prana. Mind and prana are twin and mutually dependent on each other. Mind and prana. Or you can say they go together. When one is disturbed, so is the other. So the stability of one stabilizes the other. So mastery of the mind does not mean resting over mind. And nor does mastery over prana means resting over prana. If you remember in the second verse of the first chapter, when Rishi Patanjali was giving us the definition of yoga, he said mastery over the mind by arresting its roaming tendencies is yoga. So over here, he is telling us to master our prana also. Because prana, normally, it's just like a functions chaotically. Because it is the primordial ripple of the life. It's beginningless and it's unending. They say it's self-intelligent, just like Prakriti. Prana is both unmanifest and manifest. In its unmanifest state, it is called Kundalini Shakti. And prana manifests in response to the Ishwar's will. That's why it's very vibrant. This is the one which really breathes intelligence into the matter, prana. Prana is not our creation. We are its creation. It is as pervasive as Ishwar and as omniscient also. And prana manifests in us in different grades and different degrees. As human beings, we have been given the power and privilege to further and awaken and gather our prana shakti. We can fill ourselves with a higher degree of vitality, vigor, strength, stamina, intelligence, and all that can be done through the practice of pranayama. The functions of our cardiac muscles, lungs, diaphragm are its expansion. The movement of our limbs and organs and the functions of our senses are reflection of pranic pulsation. But the most tangible and identifiable movement of prana is our breath. That's why we say that breath is the carrier of Pran Shakti. So, from the physical and biological standpoint, you can say that Pran means breath. Every aspect of our body is directly connected to the breath. And we are able to sustain our body and bodily functions only as long as we breathe. We are all familiar with that even minor fluctuations in our breathing pattern can disrupt the body's normal functions. That's why these yogi gurus, again and again, they say regulate your breath and you can regulate your mind also. Working with the breath is subtler than working with the body. We know that. Because body is grosser than the prana. That's why pranayam requires a high degree of training than asanas. And by the same token, pranayam is far more rewarding. Asanas we might do for an hour. Pranayam, we can do it only for 10 minutes and we get to see the benefit of 10 minutes of practice. As we can say that it's a minimum input and the maximum output when we practice pranayam. But in order to do pranayam properly, we got to learn it and do it faithfully. And also pranayam should be practiced only after we are established in asana. And the practice of pranayama really begins with arresting our irregular breathing. Most of the people just don't pay attention to their breathing, and it's irregular. Breath is the link between the body and the mind, as well as the balancing factor. So when disturbing thoughts arise, our breathing pattern becomes erratic. Pay attention to it. Sometimes it becomes shaky, noisy, shallow. So erratic breathing triggers a chaotic response in our nervous system, even in our gastrointestinal tract, even our endocrine glands and heart. And if left unchecked, the chaotic response intensifies. And it can really throw us into a mental and physical turmoil. And this process can be checked only if the breath summons its innate wisdom and power to calm itself. Calming the breath involves breathing deeply and evenly without jerks and noise. That is a healthy breathing pattern. Deep, even breathing will restore the body's natural equilibrium. But if breath fails to summon its innate wisdom and power, we breathe mechanically. So according to this sutra by Rishi Patanjali, arresting the mechanical movement of the breath and infusing the breath with conscious awareness is pranayam. We have been breathing ever since we took birth. But how much attention we have paid to our breathing? This is what we are talking about. The heart of pranayam practice is called pran samrodha. That means the methodical restraint of prana. This is the process by which we identify, capture, and pull pranic movement to a designated area of our body and confine it there. Because prana is so subtle as to be imperceptible to an untrained mind. So that's why we got to begin by developing sensitivity to our breath in a particular region of our body. It could be the navel center, heart center, or even the region between the tip of the nostril, or even the eyebrows. There's no place in our body where prans are not. And the yogic term for cultivating sensitivity to the subtle counterpart of physical breathing is called pran samvedana. And practice of pran samvedana requires learning to feel the breath's natural movement and experiencing how the breath is affecting a particular region. With the help of pran samvedana, we can identify and pinpoint the details of our subtle breathing. Because in a normal course of life, it remains imperceptible to most of us. So the process of identifying and pinpointing these subtle details is technically known as pran anusandhan. And practice of pran anusandhan consists of a set of 7 pranayams. And I'm sure most of you are practicing it. We have been talking about it in other classes also before this. Pran anusandhan. Let me give you the names of those today. Aharan pranayam, samikaran pranayam, dirgha prashwas pranayam, nadi shodhan pranayam, anulom pranayam, vilom pranayam, and pratilom pranayam. This is a list of the 7 techniques. Together it's called pran anusandhan. All these techniques, they help us become friends with our breath, strengthen our breathing apparatus, identify the baseline of our comfort in breathing, approach the threshold of our discomfort, and at the same time, just in the practice of asana, enable us to cross the threshold of discomfort comfortably. So these 7 techniques help us cultivate vigor, vitality, stamina, endurance, which we really need for advanced pranayams. Because advanced pranayam include breath retention, which is called kumbhaka. And these advanced practices are the subject of the next sutra also. Next sutra is called, its number is 50, and it goes like this. Bahe abhyantra satambh वृत्ति देश काल संख्या भी परिदृष्टो दीर्घ सूक्ष्मा. Bahe means external. That means outside. Outside the body. Abhyantar means internal, inside the body. Satambha. Satambha means stopping. stopping wherever it is, like a suddenly immobilizing. That's called stamba. Vritti is the revolving tendency, movement. Desh is the space or the place. Kal is time. Sankhya bhi, that means numbers. Paridrishto, fully seen, properly monitored. Paridrishto. Dirag means long, so it's like a prolonged. Suksham is the subtle. So according to Rishi Patanjali, pranayam with breath retention could be threefold. It could be external, internal, or stopping the breath wherever it is. Each is monitored by space, time, and number. And each is characterized by its length and subtlety. So in this verse, Rishi Patanjali is describing three kinds of pranayams actually. You might say that in Hatha Yoga, we have 10 kinds of pranayams. What is Rishi Patanjali doing? Remember, this is a scripture of the mind, Raj Yoga. So main purpose is how can we control our mind with the help of the pranayam. So that's why some names you are familiar with, some you are not. So three kinds, external, internal, and satamba. Stopping wherever it is. Each involves kumbhak. Kumbhak means breath retention. Holding the breath after completing an exhalation is called external kumbhak. Holding it after an inhalation is internal kumbhak. And holding it suddenly in the middle of either on inhalation or an exhalation is satamba vritti kumbhak. So these three advanced pranayams are steps toward meditation and samadhi actually. Because goal over here is samadhi. And Patanjali is assuming that the sadhak, the aspirant who have reached this level of yoga sadhana are familiar with the practice of the other pranayams. And especially that pran anusandhan, the seven which I talked about. So that's why these aspirants have built a strong foundation for practicing the three advanced pranayam techniques he's presenting here. Before we go further into this one, because some of you may not be familiar with the pran anusandhan. So today I would like to spend next 10 minutes, 15 minutes just to go over the pran anusandhan quickly. Anusandhan really means investigation or inquiry. We all breathe, yet few of us know anything about the subtle anatomy of the breath. That's why these yogis, they have talked about pranayam so much. Because for most of us, breathing is a physiological process. It just like it runs on autopilot, this breathing. We inhale and air goes in, and we exhale and air goes out. Even science tells us that our primitive brain regulates our breathing. But beyond that, what makes us inhale and exhale remains a mystery to us. We really don't know. Yogis call this mystery prana. So that's why pran anusandhan is a process where we become aware of the difference between the breathing and what makes us breathe. Because in the absence of this awareness, the advanced stages of pranayama, including the prana samvedana, prana samrodha, and the four pranayams described in the previous verse, they just remain only physical exercises for us. That means they have no spiritual value. So that's why these yogis, they really taught this pran anusandhan in 7 steps so that we take it seriously. The first step is called aharan pranayam. Aharan means to bring back. Aharan pranayam involves bringing our prana shakti back to its home base. That means our body, and more precisely the heart. They say that is the residence of prana. Mind and prana live together and they work together. We all know when the mind is scattered, prana is scattered. Before we can pull our prana back to its main seat in the heart, we have to first become aware of the union of prana and mind. And this is a very subtle process. It should not be mistaken for a breathing exercise. To practice aharan pranayam, take your most comfortable sitting position, upright. Close your eyes, become aware of your body and also the space around your body. Bring your attention to your inhalation and exhalation. Make sure there's no shakiness or noise in the breath. With the power of your inhalation, relax your shoulders. Mentally check the position of your spine. Sit straight and avoid creating an exaggerated arch. Breathe without making an effort. If your mind is not fully engaged in experiencing your body, and instead it's chasing the objects of your thoughts, your breath will be choppy and erratic. Pay attention to it. Become aware of the union of prana and mind. In the practice of aharan pranayama, making an effort to withdraw the prana and mind from a different quarters of the objective world is a recipe for failure. So that means you start thinking about something else. You are not going to reach to that quietude. So pulling the prana and mind back to the center of the heart is an effortless process. Aharan pranayam involves witnessing the smooth flow of the inhalation and exhalation. The resolve to witness the breath automatically withdraws the mind and prana from the outside world. More you practice, easier it becomes. And maintain this awareness for a few minutes. before moving on to the next step. I would suggest that this week, spend some time doing this first step. Excuse me. And then after a week, you can move to the second step, which is called Samikaran Pranayam. Samikaran means to equalize. It involves creating a condition where the quietude of the body is equal to that of the breath. And you can accomplish this by witnessing the presence of the mind and prana in different parts of the body. So after maintaining a Haran Pranayam for a few minutes, bring your attention to the crown of your head. Feel the presence of your own being in the region of your crown. Do not apply any pressure in your eyes. Do not imagine yourself in a particular form or shape. This is simply a feeling of presence. Take a few serene breaths, become established in this self-presence. And awareness of your self-presence means you have discovered a point in the space at the crown of your head. And that space is filled with the feeling of I amness. That means you are detaching from the rest of you. You are keeping your attention only at that point. You have to maintain this feeling of witnessing it. With this, you will have the experience of a unity of prana and mind. While remaining aware of this particular point in the region of your crown, take a deep breath. Feel as though your head, particularly the region of your crown, is filled with breath. Then begin exhaling, letting your mind descend through the front of your body. First to your forehead, then to the center between your eyebrows, nostrils, throat, heart, sternum, navel center, pelvis, and all the way down towards your perineum. By the time you reach the perineum, your exhalation is completed. Without pausing, begin inhalation with the awareness of ascending through the back of your body, paying attention to the areas parallel to the pelvis, navel center, sternum, heart, throat, nostrils, eyebrows, and forehead. So in other words, while exhaling, descend from the crown to the perineum through the front of your body, and while inhaling, ascend from the perineum to the crown through the back of your body. Often we practice that in our Hatha Yoga class towards the end. Including the crown and perineum, there are 10 specific spaces in which you are emphasizing the process of witnessing yourself. That means your mind and prana. So this process fills your body with the quietude inherent in your mind and prana. When you are practicing it, repeat this process 10 to 12 times before moving to the next step. Next step in this prana anusandhan is called Dirgha Prashwas Pranayam. And we'll go through those steps next week now. So this week, at least try practicing these two. Include that in your meditation. You will see that your meditation will deepen. You will really enjoy it. You will feel the presence of divinity right there inside you. So very simple 2 steps. And we'll go through the other 5 steps also next week before we go back to the previous sutra, which is a 3 kinds of pranayams he's mentioning. Let's end the class here today. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vishishyate Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much for joining. Keep
I'm here.
on practicing, please.